Indianapolis in the month of May is a special place. From the inaugural Grand Prix of Indy to the '98 Indy 500. But there's one day that stands out before the green flag flies on Sunday. A day that is an unofficial holiday, a time to skip work and party. Carb Day. A day when the drivers have one final chance to check their cars. A chance for future 500 stars to showcase their talents in the Indy Lights Freedom 100. And a time to put the spotlight on crew members who can prove they are the best in the paddock by winning the Pit Stop Challenge. Welcome to Carb Day 2014. The Indy cars are about to take to the racetrack, and not just any track, but the most famous racing circuit in all the world. It's Carb Day, kicking off a big weekend here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with final practice and a whole lot more here on the NBC Sports Network. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Varsha. As you can see, a big crowd gathering for all of the activities going on, including music and a whole lot more. Here is our schedule on NBC Sports Network. From 11 to noon, final IndyCar practice. Last chance to test and tune before the IndyCars go to the garage to await the green flag in Sunday's 98th running of the Indianapolis 500. At 12:30 p.m. Eastern, the Indy Lights, presented by Cooper Tires Freedom 100, will be on track. And if you saw that race last year or just saw the finish on the internet, a four-way photo job won by Irishman Peter Dempsey, you know you're going to want to stick around for that. And then at 1:30, we'll find out who the fastest gun, air gun that is, in the pit lane with the pit stop competition. Bragging rights, bit of cash, and a whole lot more on the line in that. So plan to sit back and spend the day with us, kicking off a huge motorsports weekend here on NBC Sports Network. Of course, there's always lots of great stories here at Indianapolis, and we have plenty coming into today's Carb Day activities. Let's start with Marty Snyder in the pit lane.
Well, Bob, a critical final practice for the guy behind me, Kurt Busch, after qualifying his Cup car last night in Charlotte. He got to Indianapolis at about 10 p.m. This practice is critical because of what happened Monday to Kurt Busch. This is his primary car, and this is the accident that happened to him when he wrecked the primary car. You see him lose control of the car. Hard hit there for Kurt Busch. He told me this practice is critical because he wants to get comfortable here in the backup car. It's actually Marco Andretti's backup car. He told me he's happy for the lesson he learned in that accident, because you always have to first guess, he told me, what's going to happen in these Indy cars. It's not like a Cup car where you kind of react to what the car does. You have to always be on top of it. He told me he let his guard down for half a second, and that's when that accident happened. He told me he's happy it happened on Monday, because if it wouldn't have happened then, it probably would have happened in the Indy 500. Let's head up further to pit road to Kevin Lee. Kevin.
Well, Marty, the hometown boy has done good again. For the second year in a row, Ed Carpenter, who has lived since he was a boy here in the Indianapolis area, is going to start on the pole. Ed was confident that they could do it again, but he actually feels better about the race this year because they spent more time on race setup. Winning the pole, he said, last year was great, but they were unhappy with how the race went. He finished 10th, and there's a different sense of confidence. Ed has always been confident, but I sense something different. He really feels like he can win this race. I asked him, how often do you think about it? Have you allowed yourself to dream about winning this race? And he said, every day. Jan?
And Kevin, for James Hinchcliffe, you remember he was kind of beating himself up after qualifying, saying, hey, I let that one get away. As he peels out, as the rest of the cars take to the track, he reminded me that this will be the first time that he has driven this car at speed in a race setup. Remember, he was not cleared to drive because of his concussion that he had. He said it was obviously a miracle that he was cleared in time to qualify, but said because of that, he has not driven this car during the week in a race setup other than briefly on Monday when they tried something different. So he is very, very eager to get the feel of the car right now.
All right, thanks, guys. Joining me here in the announce booth, 8-time Indy 500 starter and 2002 runner-up Paul Tracy. Paul, thanks for coming out.
Oh, it's great to be here. Great to be here with you, Bob. And this is a first up here with you, Robin.
I know, buddy. I'm here to. I'm your color analyst, and I'm going to keep your language clean.
Keep the color down.
That's it.
That's the voice of Robin Miller, of course, who's been in and around this racetrack as a participant and a journalist for going on 50 years. Let's talk a little bit about what the drivers need to accomplish in this session, Paul.
Well, it's different now than when I raced. Back in the day, you'd go out, you'd have a fresh motor in. In the old days, they'd go out there and check their carburetor tuning. Now, you can't change the motor. A lot of these guys have got the motors in that they qualified with. They're going to run as long as they need to do. The engineers of these engines now know exactly what the sweet spot of the motor is mileage-wise. So they're going to get the motor into the sweet spot. Obviously, they're going to have fresh brakes, fresh gearbox, fresh uprights. They've got to go out and check all that stuff, maybe run in a ring and pinion slow for a couple laps. But the days of yesteryear of going out there and checking your carburetor tuning is over.
You know, Bobby, as we watch Helio Castroneves up to speed already, you think, Paul, I just remember the old days in the carb day, guys would go out and run 7 or 8 laps and that's it, they put it away. Even maybe when you started, it was like, okay, it's cool. But now I think guys are pounding around a lot more and trying to get more information.
Well, it's the mileage thing. Like I said, when I raced here back in the 90s, your motor was maybe going to make it 500 miles if you had a good day. A lot of blow-ups. You know, the motors were really high-tuned. These new motors they've got a shelf life of 2,000 miles. So, like I said, they're trying to get these motors into the mileage sweet spot. They know that from, say, 300 miles to 1,500 miles, it's peak power. So that's where they're trying to be at.
Let's get more on Castroneves now with Marty.
Well, you just saw him come to pit road, Bob, and I talked to Elio right before he climbed in the car. He said, I have been so happy with this car the entire month of May. He said, you know, honestly, last year we were a 6th to 8th place car, and we've made a lot of changes, but there's several small changes, but that's made a big difference in the race car. He said, I really feel like this year we have a car that can contend for the win. He said, honestly, going into the race last year, I didn't feel that way. He said, this year, I know we can win this race, and what a historic win that would be for Helio Castroneves, adding his name to the list of some great drivers, Bob.
We'll be seeing Castroneves and his Penske Motorsports crew in the pit stop competition coming up at about 1:30 Eastern, where we'll be joined by Townsend Bell, who'll be able to tell us how his practice went in these final minutes. And given all the rain that's taken place over the last couple of weeks, it's probably a long to-do list for everybody in this pit lane.
PT, did you ever have a car that was really good on carb day and was terrible the first 20 laps of the race?
I've never really had a great car here on carb day. I've always kind of struggled in the race here. This race was never one of my best tracks. Obviously, 02, we can argue that back and forth till the cows come home. But you know, my car wasn't all that great in that race, and we ended up, you know, getting up there right at the end because of fuel mileage. But you know, it's really difficult. Like for these guys that didn't qualify in this Fast 9 to get stuck in the turbulence, and it's really difficult to move your way up through the field unless you have a really good car or you're just crazy brave like Tony Kanaan.
This gives us an opportunity to say hello in person. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Paul Tracy and Robin Miller. A great day ahead, certainly a great race coming up on Sunday, and a big weekend of motorsports up and down NBC Sports Network this weekend, including the Formula One Grand Prix of Monaco. Paul, let's talk about Indy. Who has surprised you thus far?
Well, I think Montoya has been pretty strong. You know, the dark horse for me is really Carlos Munoz. He's been was so quick here last year, and he's qualified right up front, so I think he's got a good shot as well.
There's a look at the two-car on track. Robin, how about you?
I think just the fact that Ganassi's not been on pace, Bobby. Just like PT said, Kanaan's going to be a factor in the race. Scott Dixon's definitely going to be a factor. They just haven't been in qualifying and practice so much. And I just think that for whatever reason, they missed it in qualifying and practice. But once the race comes, you know they're going to be tough because they always are. And I just think that a guy like Kanaan, it doesn't really matter where he starts because he's the king of overtaking anyway as they watch Juan Pablo go by his teammate.
Indianapolis is the kind of place that throws up those sorts of results. We've had defending race winners come here and not qualify for the following year's race. Is this going to be one of those years we see somebody upset the current powers from Penske and Ganassi and Andretti?
Well, you had Ed Carpenter 2 years in a row beat the big three for the pole. Can he do it? People say, well, yeah, he's still an underdog. Well, he led 37 laps last year. He's not that big an underdog. He led the most laps in the race last year. They just let it get away from him at the end, and that's the key to this race. Paul knows he was in it a long time when he won here in 2002. Is adjusting to the conditions.
Let's get more on Juan Pablo Montoya now with Kevin Lee.
I asked Montoya a little while ago what his plan is, and he said, we're pretty set. We're just going to go through the normal things that you check with fuel leaks. He said, we are going to run consistently, though. We're going to use most of this time, and we'll probably use up most of the time. But the car is really good, long runs. He said, the only thing I haven't really done is run in the big pack, so we'll find that on race day. But he said he feels just as comfortable as he did back in 2000 when he dominated this race. That might be bad news for the rest of the field, Marty.
Kevin, kind of funny that we saw Montoya go past his teammate Will Power, because before Power climbed in, I said, how's your car? And he said, very good, but it's going to be interesting during this session because Montoya is on a different setup than myself and Elio Castroneves. So I'm interested to see how fast he runs. So clearly he got by Will Power a moment ago. I was talking to Townsend Bell earlier this week, and he said, Will Power just does not look comfortable inside the car. I asked Power about that. He said, no, in qualifying trim, trust me, I was very uncomfortable. In race trim, I feel like this car has been very good. He said, much better than last year. In traffic last year, our car was very twitchy. This year, very comfortable in traffic.
All right, thanks, guys. Currently, P1 on the timesheets is Scott Dixon. Paul, how much should we read into the speeds we see here in final practice?
Well, I think you can read into a lot into the speeds. This is really the first time that all the cars have been on the track. This is your last chance to really get the car set up, and you're going to see the guys like Scott Dixon, the Penske team, the Andretti team. All these guys are ready to race. So I would not be surprised to see both Target cars up front on Sunday. They're going to race well.
Looking for our pole sitter, Ed Carpenter, who has gone back-to-back in successive years here at the Speedway. There's the number 20.
Back in Indianapolis, where many cars are on the racetrack doing fine-tuning, but for Marco Andretti, he was just on pit road making a rear spring change. And you would have to say that's a little bit more on the course adjustments as opposed to fine. So they want to try, either he wasn't happy or they had on their to-do list, they want to try two different setups for Marco, while most of the other group is out on track getting some time drafting.
Thanks, John. 24 minutes complete in the session. 1 hour in total. Here's a big pack of cars. Paul Tracy, I wanted to ask you about the draft in a big pack like that. How far behind a car ahead can you be and still feel the effect of that draft?
Well, right now, the way they're running, you can feel an effect from the draft all the way around the track. The air is circulating. These cars are pushing the air now. In the race, there's a difference between being able to run close and being able to be right up under somebody's gearbox. To be able to pass, you've got to be able to stay within a car length and keep a nose out, a wing out, down by the white line or just maybe above the other car. But, these cars, you got to get closer than what these cars are running right now to really get by a guy down the straightaway.
Of course, when you do get close, then you take the air off your own front wing and you have a whole different set of issues.
PT, do these cars, though, they've been racing good for 2 years. It doesn't look like to you can get a little bit closer to the corner, maybe not wash out the front end?
Well, for sure, it looks like they were able to run closer. What you see, like anything, when they have yellows, that's when everybody goes berserk. You see a lot of passing, a lot of 2 and 3 wide racing. Right now, it's like everybody's running in formation, just wanting to feel what the air is like, feel what the car is like. The white and green car here, I think that's Carlos Munoz. He's getting pretty close to the back of Montoya. Sato's in the draft going P1. So this is there's a lot of air moving here. The speeds are quite quick for this guys in the middle of the pack right here.
Boy, I should say, fastest speed turned in the session by Takuma Sato, who's now P1, as Paul mentioned, 236.636 miles an hour. Looking at his telemetry, upper right.
I predict that's a mistake in time and scoring. I don't think he ran 236, boys.
Everybody else doing 227s.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I'm sure AJ'd like it. But
Yes,
that's right. His car owner, AJ Foyt, like that very much. Last lap for Sato, 220. So I think you're spot on, Robin.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but
Maybe a nice headline. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Exactly.
So we have Kurt towards the back of the line here. You can see now he's not running as close to this pack as he was earlier in the week. You can see the big gap there. There's Kurt with Dixon right behind him coming here. Dixon's going to make a move on Kurt. And I think he learned a lesson on Monday about how close you can get.
PT, when you ran NASCAR, you told me once, man, there's hardly any tire on the ground. You know, you got to run them loose, and you got to just take care of the car. It's such a different feel. And for the guy to jump back and forth like he is it's very impressive.
Oh, it is impressive. I mean, just the difference between driving an IndyCar and a stock car is so vast. And I remember the first time when Jimmy Vasser went to go run a stock car, I said, so what was it like? He goes, man, those cars act so slow. He goes, that car got loose on me. He goes, I had time to reach over and take a drink out of my cup, and then I could catch it. And these cars, I mean, if it steps out on you, it happens so quick in an Indy car that there's almost no time to react, especially at the speeds that they're running in qualifying here at 230 miles an hour. I mean, there's just really no time to react to catch it.
Approaching the halfway mark in the session. There's Carlos Munoz in the 34 car. And I'm with you, Paul. He has been a bit of a surprise, but he's been fast just about everywhere. He's a terrifically talented young man, a part of a great rookie class here at Indianapolis.
I'll tell you what, he's obviously very, very quick here. He arguably could have almost won the race last year. Now we're getting a little bit racy going on here. We're going to get some two abreast. But Carlos has definitely got a good feel here for being a rookie and for his little experience. You see Will here, he's got his gearbox, he's buried right up the back of the gearbox. So that's what it's going to take in the race to pull off a pass. You've got to be able to stay right underneath of another car. Now we've got some serious pack racing going on here.
You know something else, PT? Last year, Munoz was running so low, everybody predicted he was going to crash in the race because the guy's down in the grass, but he did a hell of a job in the race and finished second as a rookie.
Well, that's what it takes. It takes getting that front wing out in clean air to be able to stay close. And he was brave enough to almost drop a wheel in the grass to get some clean air on the wing.
More from Marty.
Well, Robin, you were talking about that finish here last year, second. It was very impressive. Remember we went to Fontana at the end of the year, and he was driving that high line of Fontana and scaring everybody, but he was so fast. And what's funny about it is I talked to James Hinchcliffe about it. He said, I tried Carlos' setup for a little while. You heard Jan mention earlier on that James Hinchcliffe tried to set up for a little while. He means a little while. He said, I have no idea how that dude drives the car the way he does. He said, and I can't describe it. It was loose. It was tight. He said it was all over the place. But whatever it is, it works for Carlos Munoz.
I think he's right below the white line there.
Right there.
I just saw in turn 1 and 2, he was up on the high line, up almost in the gray, and then turn 3, he was almost on the grass. So he's one of those guys that just doesn't care where he wants to put the cars. There we go.
That's Karam. Oh, baby, he saved it.
Little high, and he definitely hit the wall and bent the toe link. But, I mean, he was looking for some clean air. Like I said, got a little bit in the gray, and that thing just took off on him.
Tell you what, he did a good job not to hit the inside wall. Good save.
Boy, oh boy. 19-year-old Sage Karam. What were you doing getting ready for high school graduation?
I was cutting class to come to the Speedway practice session.
There is Sage Karam. In fact, Sage missed his senior prom to come to Indianapolis, so his team gave him a treat. They had their own little mini prom in the garage, and he was voted king of the prom. We'll be back. Welcome back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where Sage Karam has brought out the first yellow flag during final practice for Sunday's 98 Indianapolis 500. Bob Varsha, Paul Tracy, Robin Miller up in the announce booth. Here's a look at a replay of what happened to Karam.
He was just up on the high side there trying to get some clean air, and as soon as he touched that gray, I mean, the rear end took off on him, and he was pretty lucky that didn't go all the way around.
I was going to say, brother, that he got minimal damage out of something that could have been big-time crash.
You know, maybe Hinch took the air off him. He was close.
That's what I'm
And then
wondering.
as soon as Hinch cut across the nose of him, the front end took off, and then he got in the gray, and it slid sideways. But, I mean, it's a good thing it didn't go all the way around, because you'd end up in the end of the pit lane wall.
Right.
Well, there you see Karam out of the car.
But that's Bob, what it's going to take. It's going to take being able to be right up behind the back of another car. And that's the way you have to get your car to work, to get it run and get by people here.
Let's go to Marty Reed now with Ryan Hunter-Reay. Marty Snyder.
That's all right, Bob Varsha. That's okay.
You can call me another name.
Well, I was bragging on Ryan Hunter-Reay's car earlier, and you're barely halfway through the session. You're done. I guess the car's that good.
I wish that was just the case, but the car is pretty good. We just saw something on the left rear, a little bit of grease we didn't like. So we have to take it back and make sure, very precautionary measure on our part, but just to make sure it's okay. We don't want to fry anything before the race. We'll go back, look at it, but I'm pretty happy with the car right now.
Setup-wise, you're very happy with it in traffic?
Yeah, happy with it in traffic for sure. I think either way, it's going to be a busy day for everybody. Cars are taking off on the exit of the corner. You see Villeneuve already got into the wall with the right front, so a lot of guys struggling out there with understeer.
All right, there you go, Ryan Hunter-Reay. They're going to check that problem. One of the interesting things, Bob, about this is you also pit around the cars that you'll pit around for the 500. Simon Pagano's team had a hose a little too far out. Ryan Hunter-Reay also ran over that, so the two teams had a little discussion to make sure that doesn't happen again on Sunday.
Ryan Hunter-Reay currently 5th, so the car's reasonably healthy.
Bobby, on Monday when everybody was running the extra 5 hours of practice, they really, truly, Honda thought they might have had a problem, so they pulled all their cars in after they didn't run the last hour and a half, 2 hours. Obviously, it doesn't sound like Ryan Hunter-Reay's problem is engine-related, but that was interesting on Monday that everybody came in. There's Sebastian Bourdais, who's not having a good day so far, and he's had some, he's been fast this year, but he just hasn't had any results to show for it. Right now, he's last.
It's really been a surprise today. They've got Sebastian and Saavedra right at the back, and our man Townsend Bell has been solidly in the top 10 all day. He's obviously, he's very good here. He's one of those guys you consider to be an Indy specialist, but definitely a struggle for Bourdais today.
To Jan Bikas.
And I spoke with Sebastian yesterday. He said his problem is that they're wearing the left front tire. You would think most of the load is taken by the right, but the left side tires are very soft. And after about 20 or 30 laps, it wears enough to where he picks up a vibration. So they're trying to change the setup of the car because there's no way, he says, he can have that kind of vibration and maintain race pace.
And what happens there, Jan, is when you run a lot of toe out in the front, you start scrubbing that front tire. And then what happens is you start wearing the tire in a funny pattern, and then almost the tire becomes egg-shaped, and it starts to vibrate and cause a vibration. And a lot of times that front vibration on the left front can make you, it transfers through the car, and it makes you feel like something's going on in the rear of the car when it's actually the front tire, just wearing at a weird rate.
Give a little love to our boy Townsend Bell. We just saw him going through turn 2. He's third quick right now, 2:27. PT, you were just talking off air. He is an Indy specialist because it's the only race he gets to run here, which makes this even more impressive that he runs as well as he does every May, and he's always a contender.
Yeah, and it's incredible the difference between his car right now, where he's at, and the rest of the team. It's just a huge difference between, the two other cars on the team are right at the back of the field now. Saavedra in last, Bourdais 31st. He's third. Pretty big difference.
We're keeping Townsend Bell pretty busy today. He'll be joining us for our coverage of the pit stop competition here at Indy, and then following our broadcast, he'll be joining our Marty Snyder to chat with the boys at NASCAR America, a motorsport special, a special time today. Today at 4 o'clock Eastern. More from Indianapolis. We'll join Rick Allen for all the news from Charlotte Motor Speedway, from Monaco, from all of the various racing activities going on this, the busiest racing weekend of the year. NASCAR America Motorsport Special coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it.
And you can see Townsend, he's right up the back of this other car, so he's definitely has a really, really good car, and Townsend is able to run right up behind Hinchcliffe, and that's what it's going to take to be competitive in the race, like I said earlier.
He is our colleague, and he's a great guy, but I've got to tell you, all of that aside, the idea of coming to one race, the Indianapolis 500, getting in a car and doing what Townsend does is pretty special, I think.
Well, especially when you think about in the old days, you had the guys like Bob Varsha and Bob Harkey, guys like that were specialists who would come in and jump into the car. Nowadays, Tony Stewart said he never wants to come to Indy again because he don't think he can do it once a year and be competitive. Townsend Bell is the argument that you can.
Well, and not only that, the fact that he's able to go out and generate the sponsorship year in and year out. Every year he comes with a new livery, a new sponsor, and it always seems to be sponsors that have never been in the sport before. So hats off to him at the marketing skills he has to be able to do that as well on his own.
Here's a guy who's normally fast around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Alex Tagliani, now up into 7th at 225.598.
Well, that's great for Tag because it's been a struggle so far this month. I was really surprised when I saw the qualifying and saw him all the way back in the back of the field. He's been so quick here in the past, been on the pole before. And a few years ago, there was a time when everybody thought he was the fastest guy around here. And it was definitely a struggle. He's looking pretty good, but obviously not starting in a good position for the weekend.
Distinctive engine note from the IndyCars. Let's look at Pippa Mann, a special pink livery to raise awareness to breast cancer. The one and only female driver in this year's field. I believe we had 4 last year. Pippa's going solo this year.
And again, hasn't been in a car for quite a long time. She doesn't drive a car very often, maybe a couple of times a year. Has also been working journalism this year with radio for the IndyCar series, and jumped right into the car and put it solidly in the field.
Currently 22nd. And there's Charlie Kimball right behind Pippa, both on the track and on the timesheets. Kimball 23rd at 223.224 right now. Jacques Villeneuve ahead of him in the yellow car. Villeneuve 25th.
PT, what about your fellow countryman Villeneuve? He hasn't been in an IndyCar in all these years, and he seems to still have that sense of adventure that he wants to try anything he can.
Well, yeah, obviously he's not any spring chicken anymore. He's close to 40.
Easy now.
You know,
Easy.
It's been a struggle for him here this year. You know, he's been talking all month about he's not worried about the qualifying speed. You know, he didn't have a lot of speed in qualifying. Doesn't seem to have a lot of speed today, and running kind of now on his own. You definitely got to get up there in the mix. He's currently 27th in practice. I think he's qualified 27th, though. If there's any silver lining in the sky, that was his father's number. Maybe there's a numbers game going on here, some luck coming his way. It's struggle for him, and it's a surprise because Sam's team always has good cars here. Pagano is always quick, so I'm surprised they're struggling as much as they are.
Yep. Pagano, winner of the Indianapolis Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, currently 27th on the time charts. More on him. Here's Marty.
Well, it's kind of hard to believe that 2 years ago coming into this race, Simon Pagano had never driven an oval in his life. He went to a Texas test to get ready for this race. He told me he just gets more comfortable every time. And you see him coming down pit road right now. Finished 8th in this race last year. I asked him how the setup was before practice. He said, you know, good. I think we have some work to do. They were dealing with some understeer in practice on Monday, but they are certainly getting better with it today.
And as Pagano came in, you saw that blazing yellow helmet he's wearing. It's a very special livery. One of 2 drivers who have brought special liveried helmets to the race, and they'll be auctioning them off later for charity. There's Simon Pagano in the helmet colors of his hero, and a hero to many others as well, Ayrton Senna, the 3-time world champion from Brazil. The patented yellow, black, and green of the Brazilian flag, Pagano's own special touches. Permission from the Ayrton Senna Foundation, doing good work for underprivileged children in Brazil. The other driver with a special helmet for charity, if you will, is Takuma Sato, to benefit people displaced by the tsunami in his native Japan.
His helmet's really cool, Bobby. It's got AJ Foyt's 4 wins on it. It's the date of the race. It's just the whole scheme is really cool.
Japanese flag, 4 stars representing AJ's 4 victories here. There's a look at smiling Ed Carpenter. Why not? The 2nd straight year, he will lead the field of 33 to the flag on Sunday. 98th Indy 500. Another break coming up, and we'll be back here on the NBC Sports Network. In Indianapolis, let's take you back 1 year ago. The Freedom 100 for the Indy Lights Series. Look at Peter Dempsey on the outside. Look at it, 4th place coming off turn 4, but pulled off this spectacular move down the outside. A 4-way finish. Dempsey beating Gabby Chavez into 2nd place by 26 10,000ths of a second. Carlos Munoz finished 4th behind Sage Karam. An absolutely astonishing race. And this year's edition of the Freedom 100 for the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires will be coming up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on the NBC Sports Network. We are 50 minutes and 30 seconds into this 1-hour session, a little under 10 minutes to go. Final opportunity to get your car ready for Sunday's Indianapolis 500. There's James Hinchcliffe, who has had quite a couple of weeks here at Indianapolis. Marty Snyder has more.
It has been a roller coaster. Of course, a concussion in the Grand Prix. Then he came out qualified on the front row for the Indianapolis 500. We told you earlier about trying Munoz setup on Monday. That didn't work. So they've gone back to Ryan Hunter-Reay's setup, which he's fairly happy with, but they want to try several things. But this has been a really rough practice for these guys. The first complaint, the steering was too quick. They had to change that. Then they had some radio issues. They couldn't hear Hinchcliffe. Hinchcliffe couldn't hear them. They got that fixed. And now they've gone out this last time trying to find a few last things in this car, and he has a vibration. They said, bring it to us. We have time to check it quickly if you get it here. He said, I'll suffer through it. It's not that bad. But PT, I'm sure you've had days like this where you want to find out a few more things, but nothing seems to be going right.
Well, I mean, today's the day to have problems, but I think I don't agree with the decision to stay out on track with a vibration. That could be, you know, something could fail, and then it could really put you behind if you have a crash or something. You know, anytime that you feel anything wrong with these cars when you're running at speeds of 230 miles an hour, you better bring it to the pit lane.
Not make a bad situation worse. Time remaining at the top of your screen. It is amazing, given how much and how often, how thoroughly these cars are gone through during this 2-week period leading up to the Indianapolis 500. And here, in final practice, teams are still having problems like radios.
Well, it's one of those things that happens. You never know what can happen until it happens, and it's always in the race when something is going to happen. But let's give a shout out to Buddy Lazier, currently 13th. Tiny little team, 96 Indy winner, one of your favorite guys, Robin. I talked to his brother yesterday, and I said, how's it going? And he said, I think we're pretty good. He said, David Cripps is really smart. We've got a good engineer. You know, the hard part for these small teams is going to be being as fast on pit lane as the top dogs.
Right, you're adding guys that haven't been doing it all year. But I tell you what, Buddy was one of those guys when he was having his success in the IRL. Newman Haas, Carl Haas asked him to come run St. Louis for him, and I remember him coming in to me and saying, what should I do? And I said, I'd do them both, but Ron Hemmelgarden would let him because that could have turned his whole career around.
The 96 winner will start on the last row with Sage Karam and Sebastian Saavedra. Meanwhile, there is Marco Andretti. Jan has more on him.
And Bob, you mentioned about radios. Well, on the radio, it's been burning up for Marco Andretti. In fact, Kyle Moyer at radio had said, okay, Marco, calm down, bring it into the pits, let's talk about it. He was extremely animated on the radio. He didn't like something with the car. He couldn't exactly tell what it was, so they brought him on the pit lane, calmed him down, have made a change, put new tires on this car. But Marco, at least in the previous segment, was not happy at all.
And that's really been, I guess, one of the Achilles heels with Marco. He's been so quick here throughout his whole career, but it just seems to be at some point in the race they have some kind of a problem, a pit stop goes bad or something, where he gets himself into a situation in traffic and then has a freak out on the radio, and then it all unravels from there. So that's, other than the year that he almost won the race when Sam beat him to the line, there's always seems to be some type of a problem that happens late in the race that he can't recover from.
And then last year it was just the late yellow because he was sitting in the catbird seat. Him and Hunter-Reay were looking to pounce.
Problems late in the race for an Andretti? Go figure. Marty Reed has more on that man. James, excuse me, I did it again. Marty, I apologize. Marty Snyder on James Hinchcliffe.
It's been kind of a rough practice for Andretti Autosport. You just heard what Jan said about Marco, and then we had the problem with Ryan Hunter-Reay earlier. James Hinchcliffe, he finally agreed with you, PT. He came on the radio and he said, you know what? This vibration is getting worse. We're accomplishing nothing by being out here, not learning anything about the car. It's not where I want it, but I can't learn with this vibration. So they decided to come into the pits. They're clearly going to run out of time here as they seek out what exactly this vibration might be.
Well, and that vibration could be anything. It could be a tire out of balance, or it could be some type of wheel bearing issue that Hunter-Reay had, where you could be causing more damage than you know. It could be internal in the gearbox. It could be a bearing going bad. You just don't know. It's better to just bring it in the pits and take a look.
Final 5 minutes of the final practice. Karam remains the session leader at 227.838 miles an hour. Scott Dixon second, Townsend Bell third, Helio Castroneves fourth. And then the first of the rookies, Michaela Leschen. Mark Plowman, young Englishman, getting his Indianapolis experience and leading a long group of cars.
My, how times have changed. The last time I ran here, the days I was with Penske, we used to just go out, run around, run a few laps, maybe get behind your teammate. And I'm actually surprised that a lot of these team owners want these guys out here running around, mixing it up, almost acting like it's a race out there right now.
PT, that's what I said like almost an hour ago when this thing started. In the old days, I remember guys really going out and maybe running 4 or 5 hard laps, and that was it for the day, and people sat here with no cars. Look at how many laps these guys are running. A lot of them in the 40s, almost to 50s. 52 laps for Helio.
Is a quarter distance of the race on your race car.
Yep.
Those days, I mean, the days that I ran here, you go out and run 10 laps, make sure you didn't have an oil leak or some problem, because you needed your motor to run. But like I said earlier, these motors go for 2,000 miles now. They're trying to get these motors into the best power, the best available power that they make in their life cycle.
Preserve your stuff used to be the order of the day.
Oh yeah, not anymore. They just run these things wide open. You could run these new motors, these Chevys and Hondas. You got to think about it. They're running here flat out wide open throttle now for this 50 laps. They're going to do 200 on Sunday. Think of what the abuse that takes on the motor.
Well, when you see this is what's so amazing. The last 2 years of the Indy 500, or the last 10, really, look at all the guys in the lead lap. Look how close the race is. And in the old days, some guys would win by a lap, or there'd be 2 guys in the lead lap. There's Oriol Servia, who finished 4th here a couple years ago, driving for Bobby Rahal, trying to get something together so he can run the whole season.
I talked to Oriol this morning at breakfast, saw him at the Rahal pit, and a little bit confused. It's been up and down for him. He's been quick at times, and then they lose the handle on the setup. He really didn't know where they were going to be at today. They were throwing a whole new setup at it, but obviously they're struggling again today. So it's just been up and down for the Rahal team.
Final 2 minutes.
Marco jumped up. He's up.
Yep, to 7th.
Up to 7th.
And there's your session leader, the number 10, Tony Kanaan.
And the reigning champion as well. Obviously, he's showing his hand early. He is going to be a factor. He's not in a good starting position, but I don't think it really matters for him, because I don't think there's anybody in the field better on restarts and starts than our man TK.
Exactly, and now, it's just like they haven't got off to the start he wanted to, taking Dario's ride, when Dario had to quit. But I mean, a place like this is where he excels.
Special livery on the car, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the sponsor relationship between Target Stores and Chip Ganassi racing teams. Dixon and Kanaan are racing in these colors.
That's pretty impressive, Bobby. 25 years having a sponsor in any series, especially, as rocky as IndyCar was 15 to 20 years ago.
Tony, one of 6 former winners in the field, and they are scattered throughout the field. Buddy Lazier, the 96 winner, starts 33rd. Jacques Villeneuve, 27th. Kanan, 16th. Scott Dixon, 11th. Right next to Juan Pablo Montoya in 10th. Going for his second win in as many starts in the Indy 500. And of course, Helio Castroneves, a three-time winner, starts 4th. The mayor of Hinchtown is back on track, Marty Snyder.
Well, the only thing they thought they could do to try and fix that vibration for him, put a new set of tires on, send him back out. He said, guys, is this a new set of tires? They said yes. He said, well, then this set has a vibration too. So clearly it is something other than tires that's vibrating on this 27 machine.
Oh boy.
Not a good feeling going into the race when you don't know what's wrong with something.
That's just what you want to see when the checkered flag comes out of vibration.
I don't know exactly what the rules are, whether you can break this car in half now that they've run through tech before the race or not, but clearly they're going to have to dig into the car, dig into the gearbox, dig into the uprights and wheel bearings and see if they can find something. I'm not 100% sure whether you're even allowed to do that.
A few years ago, many years ago, probably you weren't even born yet, somebody had a problem on Carb Day and they let him go to Raceway Park and run it up and down the straightaway. But that's probably been 25 or 30 years ago because Claremont's 4 miles away and they were trying to figure out what it was and they let him do it. I just remember it never happened again.
Well, I remember when I ran here with Penske in '94, I jettisoned out of here on Rogers Plain up to Michigan to go run a 500-mile race during the week of practice.
Right.
So, you know, these things of, we weren't running our race car that was from here. We had another car up there, but, you know, definitely not a good session for the mayor. They've got some problems to fix, but wow, what a session for the Ganassi team.
To be sure, the Andretti boys are about to do everything they can within the rules to find that mysterious vibration. Just another dip in an up and down 2 weeks for Hinchcliffe here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now the Indy cars will head for the garage and we'll get set for the Freedom 100 for the Indy Lights series presented by Cooper Tires. Final thoughts on final practice, Paul?
Well, I mean, not a surprise to see Ganassi at the front. Kurt Busch had a good session. Obviously, Carpenter had a good session. Surprised about Bourdais and the KV team that won the race last year. 2 of their cars at the back, but 1 at the front with Townsend Bell.
How about you, Robin?
Well, I think last year's race was phenomenal. 60-some lead changes. I think you're going to see the same thing Sunday. I don't think you can predict who's going to win because I think, unlike some people's series who they say anybody has a chance, a third of the field's got a chance to win this race. And kudos to Townsend Bell, our man. He's going to be up here in the booth soon. 3rd quick overall. Hell of a job.
It's James Hinchcliffe walking away from the car. What could be going through his mind right now? Well, we're about to take another break. And then it'll be time for the Freedom 100. Our crew will step out. Kevin Lee, Anders Krohn, and Joseph Newgarden will be here to call the Freedom 100 for the Indy Lights series. So stand by. I'm Bob Varsha for now. For Paul Tracy, Robin Miller, Marty Snyder, Jan Bikas, and Kevin Lee. See you on the other side of the break.
It is the closest finish in the vast and storied history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In 105 years of racing at the legendary Brickyard, the margin had never been tighter.
It was so close, and you know, you could really hear the fans from the cockpit going crazy.
Here comes Dempsey. Dempsey's going to go 4 wide. It's going to be. Dempsey won it. Oh, Dempsey won it.
Victory by just 2 1/1000ths of a second, less than the blink of an eye.
It's the best finish that I've ever been in, but it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to come so close to winning that race.
Closer than Goodyear was to Unser Jr. in 1992 and Andretti to Hornish in 2006. Victory at Indy by a scant sliver and a 4-wide storm to the line, itself covered by 4 1/100ths of a second. A year on, some of the faces have changed, but the passion for victory at Indianapolis endures. Who next will add his name to the illustrious list of winners on this hallowed ground? The Indy Lights Championship, presented by Cooper Tires Freedom 100 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is next. We are 2 days away from the greatest spectacle in racing, and the biggest weekend in motorsports is in full swing. Carb Day coverage continues on NBCSN. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Freedom 100 Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. I'm Kevin Lee, along with former Indy Lights driver Anders Krohn. We can talk about who's going to win and who the favorites are and where the season championship is at. Yes, we're always thinking championship, but this is the big one, the one that everyone in this series wants to win.
This really is, Kevin, and I was just looking at those footages there from last year. Just an amazing finish, and all these drivers are going to be gunning for it because they know, championship or no championship, this is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you know what? They all want to win it.
Now
All right, race fans, it's that time. Please welcome Barry Garwood, Indianapolis manager for Allied Building Products, to issue today's command.
Drivers, start your engines.
Find out how they're going to start here today. The grid for the 12th Freedom 100 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway stacks up like this. Luis Rizia on the inside, and then his teammate Jack Harvey is on the outside of row number 1. Matthew Brabham and Zach Veach, another pair of teammates, in row number 2. Row 3 has Gabby Chavez from Bellardi Auto Racing and another Schmidt-Peterson car, Juan Pablo Garcia. They've won this race at Schmidt 7 times. Chase Austin, he's driven stock cars in Nationwide in the Truck Series. This will be his 4th straight start here in the Freedom 100. And then Juan Piedrahita, also in a Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports car. Alex Barrett with Bellardi, and Scott Anderson from Fan Force United. And Zach Meyer rounds out the field here today. It's time now to find out the keys to this race with Anders Insider.
Well, Kevin, you know what? The biggest story note here today is the fact that we have 3 rookies on the front positions here for this race. This could be incredible, and these guys haven't raced here, so they might be a little uncertain of how to operate their cars in the opening laps of the race. The second part is the air density here is a lot different to what it was than during the open test earlier this month. Air density plays a huge role in the overall balance of the car, but also how the cars draft up to each other. So there's a huge level of uncertainty. And the final point is the Cooper tires. They've done an outstanding job so far coming into the series with doing road courses and street circuit very, very well so far. But this is the first oval, and guess what? It's the biggest one.
Next time by, we'll go green down to pit road with Jake.
Anders was just talking about the conditions. Spectacular day here in central Indiana. As a matter of fact, that air is not humid really at all, which is what's great right now. The track temperature is 112 degrees, ambient temperature 68 degrees under very little cloud cover here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Not much of a breeze either, but when there is, that comes at a turn number 4. The one thing, Kevin, that these drivers have is, keep in mind, these are virtually the same conditions in which they qualified, so they should have a pretty good idea how those cars are going to be able to perform under these conditions today. About to go green here, Kevin Lee.
Johnny Rutherford, the 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner in the Chevy Camaro pace car, will pull off in just a moment. They begin to form up on the backstretch. Cannot wait to see how this one plays out. Last year is going to be difficult to top, but taking a look at practice this week, they're going to give it a good go. A lot of slicing and dicing.
The tension is so high. You could feel it in the driver meeting this morning. They all gathered, but none of them really wanted to look each other in the eye because they know they're about to battle it out like fighter pilots, and here we go.
Up to this point, maybe the biggest moment in these young drivers' career. Rizia, the pole sitter in the Lucas Oil car, the white one with red on the inside. The red nose, the blue rear wing, that's Jack Harvey on the outside. And we are green at Indianapolis for the free. No, we'll wave it off. No starts.
Just came out of formation a little bit too quickly there. They typically want them to be in formation across the start-finish line, and that's when they'll let the start go there. So a little bit too antsy. We can see Gabby Chavez there back in the 5th position, filing out already really, really quickly.
Let's look back at this restart one more time. I applaud the decision, and sometimes you're reluctant to throw that yellow, but give everybody a fair shake. And
actually, that's Alex Barron there popping out initially, and then Gabby Chavez trying to get the run there. and you can just tell that these guys want to get this started.
They wanted to think about 5 wide at the beginning, or at least 4 wide. What's protocol here? Does the leader control the start?
The leader controls the initial acceleration, but the problem as the leader is you're breaking all that air, and it's so easy to draft up on someone here. So protecting your lead on lap 1 is nigh on impossible. So I think we're going to see coming out of turn 2 here that we have a different leader than Luis Rizia.
So they'll start forming up again at the north end of the 2.5-mile oval. Rizia holding down the pace. He wants to dictate the start of this race and get the early jump. Rizia and Harvey in the front row, Brabham and Veach in the second row, teammates. On row 1 and row 2, keep an eye on Gabby Chavez. He has the experience. He's the only one in this race, a part of the 4-wide finish last year, lost by just a few inches. It is green, and we are racing in Indianapolis in the Freedom 100 with Indy Lights. They race down into turn number 1. Rizia still has the advantage. Brabham is right on his tail. Brabham to the inside of Jack Harvey. Harvey holds on to second. Brabham slots into third. Then it's Zach Veach and Gabby Chavez.
They tried 3 wide and almost went 4 wide there going into turn 1, but they all thought better of it and thought, hey, we have 40 laps to get this done. It's 100 miles, so we have the time to get it done here. And I think in the initial phase of this race, you'll see a lot of these guys just try to feel their way out. Where does my car work? Can I run the high line? Can I run the low line? How does it work in traffic and in the draft?
A half a lap in, the front 5 have checked out a little bit. Impressive to get through that first corner. You know you can't win it and you can lose it, but that's easier said than done because this is an opportunity to make up positions.
It exactly is, and it's so easy when you're a driver sitting in the 4th or the 5th row and you see the leader is right there. So you want to be aggressive, you want to do something, but obviously these guys have done a good job so far of just playing it a little bit smart. As we see here, Gabby Chavez, I talked to him in the driver meeting before the race today, and he said he was so confident. He was actually wearing a red bandana to show his attack level today. So he is definitely going to be one to watch here as we see the Andretti teammates here fighting it out with Zach Veach looking on the outside of Matthew Brabham.
Veach in the red and white car, the Replay XD car. That's on board with Matthew Brabham, his teammate, and they are side by side down the backstretch. Gabby Chavez has the great vantage points.
Gabby Chavez is going to try and take advantage of this here. He's going to try and suck up in the double draft. You get a way better draft effect there. As we hear Matthew Brabham having an upshift up to 6th gear there. Already starting to see pack racing, and guess what? We're only 10% through the race.
Chavez alongside into turn 1 and still trying to go side by side through the South Chute.
If I was Chavez, I would back out just a little bit here because they do not want to lose the draft of the lead pack here. As we saw, as soon as they went side by side, they lost a little bit of advantage to the group ahead. They can't afford to be doing that again if they're going to have a chance of winning this race. As we see Matthew Brabham, clearly the quickest guy on track at the moment, slotting into second there.
Matthew Brabham got his first win in the first of the 2 races here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course, and he is gaining on Luis Rizia.
Getting a huge draft there, and that is the perfect gap you want. You want to leave yourself just a little bit of room to gain that momentum. He's going to have a look here on the inside. He gets in the rev limiter, loses a little bit of speed, but still has that position, and Luis Rizia doesn't squeeze unnecessarily. Great move there for Brabham, but also very smartly played from Luis Rizia.
On the rev limiter there, explain.
It's basically a limiter that sets you at 8,600 RPM. That's your engine can't rev any further past that, and it basically makes sure that the engine wear isn't too excessive.
It's all about guessing on the gearing, getting the right gearing so you don't hit that rev limiter.
It exactly is, because as soon as you hit that rev limiter, it's like hitting the brick wall. You just stop accelerating, and especially in these cars, once you hit what's called the hard limiter, you really stop accelerating, and that's when you can lose a draft.
Well, these front 5 are going to be racy, and beyond that, they're also back in the chase. Back in the 6th position, Juan Pablo Garcia is starting to make a little bit of noise. Rizia trying to catch up with Brabham into turn 1. Not that time.
And if you want to talk about veterans, Gabby Chavez is known as a veteran here, but Juan Pablo Garcia is even more so, has competed here a number of times and has got so much experience with these cars on the super speedways. He could be a dark horse in this race. He didn't exactly have the qualifying that he'd hoped for, but he told me the car is good in traffic. That's the only thing that matters.
4 times Juan Pablo Garcia has raced here in the Freedom 100. The most is Wade Cunningham, 6 times, and he's won it 3 times. We're on board with Luis Rizia.
As we see some 2 wide action there coming out of turn 4. everyone are keeping it surprisingly clean here. Last year we saw people almost trying to kill each other on the opening laps even, but they're playing it a bit more respectful here. But you know, it could be very well be the calm before the storm here.
Harvey to the inside, side by side with Chavez. Harvey on the low side as Chavez nearly getting into the wall.
Wow, that is impressive stuff there, being able to hold it together. As you can see there, when Harvey is squeezed to the inside of the track, he loses a bit of momentum because he's forced to take a tighter radius in the corner, and it just tightens the car up ever so slightly. As we see 3 wide now going into turn 3. Zach Veach is going to be smart there and just pull in and stay in third for now.
And Luis Rezia is back to the front.
We are seeing exactly what we thought this race was going to be, just lead change after lead change and a big pack of cars running with each other. We're 7 laps into this, but I don't think we've seen the best of it yet.
And now Brabham will take a look going into turn number 1 in the blue and white United Fiber and Data car. Matthew Brabham is back in the lead at Indianapolis. Well, we thought this might be a precursor for the Indianapolis 500. Certainly, we expect more of the same coming up on Sunday. We've got a good one going here. Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Matthew Brabham leads at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's race weekend in Indianapolis, 2 days away from the 98th running of the 500, the greatest weekend in motorsports. And we are in the Freedom 100 Indy Lights race. Just a moment ago, before we went to break, look at this. Zach Veach and Gabby Chavez splitting Luis Rezia.
And Rezia losing another spot there. There's teammate Jack Harvey. Just a good example of how to lose momentum. He came out of turn 2 a little bit too narrow, not in Matthew Brabham's draft here right now, and just gets freight trained. This is part of his learning experience right now. He is a rookie to ovals, and he'll be learning a heck of a lot right now.
Some of these other young drivers at least have the oval experience on the shorter ovals in USF 2000 and Pro Mazda, but coming from Europe, he does not have that. And the pole sitter now, Luis Rezia, who came in only 4 points behind Zach Veach in the championship, is now running in 5th, but he's still in great shape. You just want to stay with his lead pack, and you still have just as good a chance as anyone to win.
And I'm also pretty confident that the Schmidt-Peterson crew are telling him right now, just play it cool, just learn the first half of the race. Where can I run? Where can I place myself? You know, he's got to be smart here with how he positions himself in this area, as we see Chase Austin here. Chase as well. First Indy Lights race of the year for him. He's a very experienced stock car guy, so he's certainly no rookie to ovals overall, but hasn't done a lot of Indy Lights action. But he's still staying with the pack here and doing a fine job.
Chase Austin has been in the last 3, now 4 straight Freedom 100s. He's done a couple of other Indy Lights races, but he's essentially a one-off, like we see a few in the Indianapolis 500. 24 years old from Kansas. Chase Austin is doing a nice job. He ran competitively yesterday. This is a tall task to step in and do it, but he's with a good team.
He is with a great team in Bilardi Auto Racing, and he's also supporting the UnAIDS campaign, which is a campaign for zero AIDS across the world. So great to see him supporting such a worthy campaign.
Matthew Brabham is our leader.
And at this point, we're going to see here Zach Veach just taking a look at the inside of Matthew Brabham. These guys have played it smart so far. They've been playing good teammates, but I bet you in about another 15 laps or so, they're not going to be so nice teammates anymore.
Well, they had a couple of run-ins in the road course weekend here a couple of weeks ago.
They did indeed, and there are some rumors around the paddock that they aren't exactly the best of friends at the moment. I don't have confirmation on that, but I can certainly understand if you are two teammates, you essentially have the same equipment. You have all the same resources, so the only difference between the two of you is going to be your talent and execution, and man, they are pushing hard here right now. Zach Veach taking advantage of his oval experience, which is vast compared to that of Matthew Brabham.
I think the rear wing was underneath the gearbox at that point, and Veach backed out a little bit behind his teammate. Fantastic racing so far at Indianapolis. Veach, Brabham, Chavez, Harvey, and Rezia.
This is great as we see some two-wide action there between Juan Piedrahita and Juan Pablo Garcia a little bit further back in the pack. They are still staying with it, and they still have a shot to win this. As soon as the leaders start fighting, typically what happens is you bunch everyone up. They slow down, they're going 2 wide, 3 wide, they lose momentum, but then the other ones have a chance to catch up.
Well, joining us now in the booth is a former winner of this race, Joseph Newgarden, as we watch another attempt to change the lead, and it's a two-way train. And Zach Veach may come out in third as Gabby Chavez tries to go with Matthew Brabham. Too wide through the short chute for second position. Veach on the high side, Chavez on the low side. They come very close, and Chase Austin has made heavy contact back in the pack.
That is a vicious hit for Chase Austin. It looks like he's moving in the car, so that is very good news indeed, but that was a really big hit. I really hope he's okay there. That's just another one of those when you're running so tight, you're doing 200 miles an hour, and big crashes can happen, and that is indeed what happened just now.
So this is the south end. Chase Austin between turns 1 and 2. And the safety team is always immediately on the scene to help the driver. Look at that machine.
That has just been completely split in half, and I'm just hoping and praying that Chase is okay there. That's the only concern we have at this point in time. Looks like he hit the inside wall there between 1 and 2, and that is the last place you want to hit. And it looks like he actually hit the tires before where the safer barrier starts. Hopefully we'll get a replay, but obviously again our thoughts now initially are with Chase Austin.
We're going to hold off on replays for just a moment and wait for positive news on Chase Austin. We're under caution at Indianapolis. This is Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. The Verizon IndyCar Series pit stop competition is still to come this afternoon. Part of 30 hours of motorsports coverage on NBCSN, and a special NASCAR America coming up at 4 today will also include reports here from Indianapolis, from Monaco, and of course from Charlotte as they get set for the 600 on Sunday nights. Whether he's injured or not, it's going to take a while to extricate him because of so much damage to the car, and they will take every precaution just in case. Take a look at it. This is on board with Chase Austin.
Oh, he is just wicked loose through that corner. I mean, he did a great job hanging on to it for as long as he did. Oh, he is just
almost saved it.
Chasing that car. That is, oh, this is going to be a big one.
And we lost the signal right before he made impact.
Oh, that is just the worst possible impact right there. That is a bad hit. I, again, really hope that Chase is okay after that.
He's out of the car. The Hamacho safety team is still working with him on the scene. Jake Query is headed to the medical center, so he'll get an update in a moment. Maybe the tires help just a bit there. At a very difficult angle. The rear of the car, the front of the car destroyed. Will Chase Austin.
Yeah, he just hits at the worst possible angle there, right where the safer barrier and the tire barrier kind of come together. So it really is just the worst spot on the track you can probably hit.
Well, we won't bother speculating. We'll wait for reports from the infield medical center on Chase Austin in just a moment. I'm Kevin Lee. Anders Krohn is with me, and also Indianapolis 500 starter and 2011 Indy Lights champion Josef Newgarden, who won this race that year, joins us in the booth. Well, every racing driver has dealt with it. If you're in this race, how are you dealing with this at this point as you're driving by and seeing one of your coworkers being attended to there on the track?
Well, the difficulty about this is that they're not going to be getting updates on this. They're going to be focused on their race. And as a driver, you have to stay in that mentality. You have no idea what's happening around you. You know there's a wreck that's happened, but your focus is going back to green and what you need to do on the next restart. So these guys aren't going to be thinking about it necessarily. They're hoping everyone's all right, but they're so focused on their job right now that they cannot distract themselves with thinking about the wreck.
The lights are off on the pace car. We are beginning to get set to go racing again. Working on lap 23 of 40 for the Freedom 100 Indy Lights race. The yellow for a crash for Chase Austin, a very violent crash. He's at the infield medical center. As soon as we have information, we will pass it along on Chase Austin. It's Matthew Brabham, Zach Veach, Gabby Chavez, Jack Harvey, Luis Rizia, Juan Pablo Garcia, Juan Piedrahita, Alex Barron, Scott Anderson, and Zach Meyer. That is the field. single file as they come out of turn number 4, back onto the main straightaway, and we are racing again at Indianapolis.
Looks like a really good jump from Matthew Brabham. Usually the leader can never get away and usually gets overtaken into turn 1, but he had a great jump there. Gabby Chavez now looking around the outside. That is an aggressive move for him. He wants to go to the front because he thinks he has the car to beat.
Chavez lost last year by 6 inches. The outside pass sticks on Zach Veach, and now Chavez looking to the outside again on the leader, Matthew Brabham, as they head down to 3. On board with Brabham. Chavez has the momentum, and Gabby Chavez is to the front, and Zach Veach will go with him.
Very interesting to see here that Chavez chose the outside for his pass. He clearly has something figured out here with either freeing the car up or whatever that is, but the outside move seems to be working as we see Brabham lost all sorts of momentum there with that double pass.
Back in the pack, we've got some action as well. And Chavez started to clear a little bit, but immediately Veach gets back within a car length.
And here we have Veach and Chavez yet again, the 2 championship contenders that we've talked about again and again on each broadcast. They're now running with each other, and let's hope they can keep it clean this time.
I mentioned that Chavez lost this race last year by a few inches, but the team did win. Peter Dempsey was in a car for Bilardi Auto Racing. Chavez was with Schmidt last year.
Exactly, so Chavez has stepped into Peter Dempsey's old ride from last year and probably hoping that that's going to give him some good karma here. Certainly right now looking like he's very, very strong.
Back in the 5th position, there we see him just coming into the camera in the white and red cars. We take a look at Zach Veach running right behind Gabby Chavez. Ruzia is still within reach. He's the pole sitter and led early. He told me yesterday the car didn't work as well as I wanted it to in traffic, and that's what he's dealing with right now. He thought Jack Harvey's car worked better. He's going to try to get a little bit of information from them.
And usually this team will be fully transparent with all the information that they're running across each other. As we know, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports have won this race 7 times, including with one of our gentlemen right here alongside us, Joseph Newgarden. So they have the knowledge to get it done. However, the drivers are rookies to super speedways, and it may just take them a little while to understand completely how do you race on an oval. As we see right now, we have 2 veterans out front, at Gabby Chavez and Zach Veach. They have raced here before. They know what the game is all about. The only new thing to them this year is the Cooper tire.
Joseph, what is this like? Nose to tail, separated by about 2 feet through each corner.
The whole name of the game here is staying up front. And for me, when I ran in 2011, staying up front was the most important thing to do. Gabby Chavez, to me, is the guy to watch right now. Last year, I picked him to win, and he was oh so close because, like Anders was saying, that outside pass is really crucial around here. If you can make the Lights car work on the high side, it's very effective. And Chavez seems to have something figured out that no one else can really make work. And for me, that's going to be the most interesting thing to watch at the end.
And do you, Joseph, when you're on track, do you have a certain driver that you want to trust, that you feel like, hey, I can actually run side by side with him? And then conversely, do you have drivers that you can't run side by side with that you're a little bit afraid of?
Absolutely, and what these guys are doing right now are sizing each other up. So as you get through this race, 20, 25 laps in, you've learned the process from everyone around you, and you hope to figure out who you want next to you at the end of the race and who you don't want next to you. And all these guys are trying to figure that out right now.
And I certainly know that when you and I raced against each other in the Freedom 100 a few years back, there was this level of safety feeling from me in that, hey, we're racing hard, but we're not going to try and kill each other.
Absolutely. You want to be able to trust the guy next to you. And as a driver, you can somewhat help that situation where you can try and mimic and put a guy where you want him at the end. Chavez is pretty good at that. He's very good at drafting. He knows where to place people where he wants them.
That red car is Alex Barron, the 2nd Bilardi Auto Racing car. He has been racing with Juan Pablo Garcia. And they've gone side by side through the corners a little bit. Back up front, there's the leader, Gabby Chavez. Zach Veach taking another look to the inside as they head down to turn 1.
Zach Veach right now is trying to time it up here. He's trying to see, can I get to the front before the yard of bricks? If he can do that, then he knows he has the position, he has the advantage, and that's how he can play the race out from then. He can plan around getting drafted on the back side of the track, but then getting the lead back on the front section of the track. So very smart what Zach Veach is doing here right now.
Great point. It doesn't seem likely that you can get a run as Brabham goes to the inside of Chavez now, and he'll take a look at his teammate. 2 cars in one corner. Matthew Brabham goes from 3rd to 1st.
And it just comes to show you how big that double draft is here. You get that run on someone, and especially here, it looks like Matthew Brabham and his engineers have figured out the gearing just right, so that when he sucks up in that air, he can pull that last gear and just suck right by.
Matthew Brabham got his first Indy Lights win a couple of weeks ago on the road course. He has been a superstar in the making for many years. He was born in Florida. He's lived in Australia. He is the grandson of Sir Jack Brabham, who passed away this week. And Matthew Brabham has dominated in the first 2 steps of the Mazda Road to Indy ladder. He won 14 of the 17 races last year in Pro Mazda, and Anders, he's taking to the Indy Lights car now.
And talk about the Mazda Road to Indy ladder and how that works. He came into USF 2000 from Australian Formula Ford, having raced that, came into USF 2000 powered by Mazda, won that, got a scholarship from Mazda to move up to Pro Mazda. He won that, dominated actually, then moved up to Indy Lights with the help of Mazda yet again. So it really comes to show the level of commitment Mazda have to the Mazda Road to Indy. And most of these drivers have a lot of thank you to say to Mazda for helping them out in their careers.
Luis Rizia, we saw in the Lucas Oil car, get a position back. The early leader, the pole sitter, is back in the 4th position, and Jack Harvey has slipped back to 5th.
Now we see a pretty big separation here, but the impressive thing to me so far is how well these Cooper tires have held up. There's been some level of uncertainty as to how well the car is going to race here. Obviously, they're new to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They have a very, very wide history of making good tires, but they've never been to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway before on the oval. So this is impressive. It shows that the tire can race well, and it's only going to get better.
5 cars separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Wow.
You just hear Brabham on the limiter there, and it's interesting, the gear selection. It's so crucial around this place, and I wonder who's got it figured out the best. But still, to me, Chavez is the guy to watch here.
So what are you thinking right now? If you are Gabby Chavez right now, what is your thought process?
Well, you're right on the uncertainty right now because these tires are so new and no one actually knows what's going to happen at the end of this race and where they're going to fall off. So far, it looks incredible. It looks like they can follow close. It seems like they can stay relatively in the same pack together. Very similar to last year. This looks like it's shaping up to the race last year, and that was an amazing finish 4 wide. So I don't know exactly where you need to be placed because I'm not sure with this new tire, but I think Gabby's getting a good idea right here of just staying in 3rd and trying to time where he needs to be at the end.
Veach taking a look again. Chavez will take a look behind him. No change this time through. That was a big question coming in. New tires, first time on the oval. Luis Rizia said, you know, when we came here and tested, I had some concerns. But now with some rubber on the track, he said he did long runs yesterday, including a 36-lap run, which is also almost the full length of the race, and is going to be more than the green flag laps we will do. He said the tires were great, just as good at the end of the run as the beginning, so he had no concerns.
And that's really been the trait of the Cooper tire so far this year. That's what everyone have been saying on the road courses as well. The tire doesn't drop off as bad as the Firestone used to. So this tire really does seem to hold up quite well, and obviously, as we're seeing here, it does provide great racing. Now, I want to look again at Gabby Chavez. He is keeping some distance, and I'm wondering if that is on purpose or whether he just can't quite stay with the Andretti Autosport cars of Zach Veach and Matthew Brabham.
You know what looked interesting was the slingshot, though. When we saw Brabham slingshot from 3rd to 1st, he seemed to be able to do that no problem coming out of turn 2 into turn 3. And I wonder if Gabby's thinking that's the place to be. Because last year, that's where he wanted to place himself. He put himself in 3rd. He thought that was the winning move, and it darn near was almost. So I wonder if that's the place to be as 3rd for the end of this race.
And I'm also pretty confident here that if they do come to the line 3 wide, he's going to go a little bit further to the right and make sure that there's no Peter Dempsey going on his outside.
He's going to make sure to close it off. Exactly.
Well, the 2 up front are teammates. We're on board here with Luis Rizia. No, I'm sorry, that's the back of Matthew Brabham's car, and now Chavez looking to the outside of Veach, and Chavez barely makes it stick.
Oh, that was a chop and a half right there. That was very aggressive driving from Chavez. And you can see immediately Zach Veach lost some ground there because he probably had to lift out of the throttle to reduce that aero wash that you get that puts you up towards the wall. And now Chavez might very well have the race in his pocket right now. He's very aggressive. He knows where to place himself. from his knowledge from last year, and this could be his race to win at this point.
You know, Razia and Harvey are kind of the new guys in the block, too. They haven't really had any oval experience yet. Coming from Europe from last year, never really been to America to race before. And these guys up front have been in the Mazda Road to Indy for a couple years now. They understand the system. I wonder if these two guys in 4th and 5th are going to be able to topple them. Maybe they know something a little bit better and just hanging back right now.
All three in that front pack have won races this year. Brabham already this month. Veach and Chavez have won a pair each. Chavez also had a race win last year, but lost this one by 6 inches.
He is not going to want to lose that again, and he will fight till the bitter end to make sure that that race win is his this year. He knows he has the car behind him. He's had a very strong car on the road courses and the street circuit so far, and obviously right now he is showing his pace as we see Luis Razia and Jack Harvey fighting it out there for that 5th position.
Razia maintains 4th for the moment. His teammate Harvey giving it a look. The front 5 have separated. 3 more racing together in the back. Let's take a look at this again. On board with Brabham, we're watching the red car. That's Gabby Chavez.
So he does the classical move there, goes to the outside, gets a bit of clean air, that gives him better grip throughout the corner, and then he just chops down on Veach. And you
move
can
over,
see
coming down.
Immediately as Veach tucks in behind, you can see his car move up just half a car width. That is from aero wash. A lot of turbulent air being created by the car in front of you that makes you lose downforce, which is grip.
Harvey is going to try his teammate Razia again. Side by side, doesn't have enough to get it on the low side. Razia hangs on to the spot. But those two are going to lose those front 3 if they continue in this manner.
It just looks like you lose a bit of momentum if you go down to the low side.
Let's go down to the medical center now and hear from Jake Query.
At the Indiana University Health Medical Center here, the Emergency Medical Center, Chase Austin has been released. He is being transported now to Methodist Hospital, but he is awake and alert. He did suffer a fracture to his left wrist, but the good news is Chase Austin is awake and alert. He is being transported from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Never want to hear about someone breaking a bone, but all things considered, with the uncertainty, fantastic news for Chase Austin.
You know, that is a great sigh of relief here as we have just over two laps remaining here in this race. I mean, now we can really focus on the racing, knowing that he is somewhat okay. He's being transported to be seen by some of the best doctors in the country, and now we can get back down to it here as we see Gabby Chavez and Zach Veach. This is what we've talked about. These two guys are fighting it out for the championship. They are not liking each other very much right now.
And keep an eye on that white and red car back there. That's Razia on the low side of his teammate Harvey. Still, 5 drivers have an opportunity to win here at Indianapolis. Matthew Brabham, the grandson of the legendary Sir Jack Brabham, who revolutionized the rear engine cars here at Indianapolis in '61, and his dad, Jeff Brabham, drove here 10 times and finished as high as 4th. Look at this, Veach and Chavez. Chavez on the red car.
Oh, they are just showing each other up at this point. They're telling each other basically, hey, no, I'm the man. I'm the guy who's going to get this. And at this point, I think we're in for a crazy finish here. Another crazy finish in the Freedom 100 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
The white flag is shown. 2.5 miles to go. At least 5 drivers still in the mix. Veach to the outside of Brabham. Chavez to the inside, and turn number 1 nearly go 3 wide, and the 2 nearly touch, battling for 2nd and 3rd. Veach gets to 2nd.
Oh, but Veach lost ground there to Matthew Brabham. The question is, can Matthew hold this off now by breaking the draft ever so slightly? Look at this. He's going to go all the way down to the bottom side here, trying to break that draft to make sure that no one can get him. As we see Jack Harvey fighting it out as well on board with him. Brabham looks like he has it right now.
2 more turns to go, side by side for 2nd. Chavez on the outside, Veach on the inside. Brabham is the leader in the blue and white car. Matthew Brabham trying to hold off. 1 more corner to go. Gabby Chavez has a run. He lost by 6 inches last year. Chavez to the outside, side by side at the line. It is Gabby Chavez wins the Freedom 100 in Indianapolis by about a foot. 2 years in a row here.
Gabby Chavez, what a well-timed draft there. It looked like he didn't have it, but then he did. That is just spectacular.
It's Chavez, Brabham, Veach, Razia, and Harvey. The front 4 separated by 0.2 of a second. The unofficial difference is 5/1000ths of a second.
And how about this? Bilardi Auto Racing. They got their first win in Indy Lights here last year. Coming back, they are becoming the kings of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Let's watch it again. Is this not the first lap that Gabby Chavez led?
This might very well happen, and he timed it to absolute perfection, as we see Luis Garcia as well. He wants that third spot, not able to get it, but that is the best time draft I have seen in a while, and you know what? He gets redemption here from last year.
He did lead laps earlier in the race. Brabham is doing all he can. This is on board with Brabham.
At this point, there's nothing Brabham could have done except just hold on and keep his foot wooded, which is exactly what he did. And boy, what a finish. I can barely believe we saw such a close finish yet again.
And I wonder if that limiter just came into play there. You heard Brabham hit the limiter, and that seemed to just slow him just enough so Gabby could get a foot on him.
Exactly, so crucial here. Every little bit at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is crucial in getting the car right, not just with the balance of the car, but as you say, with the gearing as well.
So unofficially right now, it looks like Veach and Chavez are tied for the championship, but that doesn't matter right now. Gabby Chavez is at victory lane at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're going to hear from the winner and more coming up in just a moment. And back to IndyCar with the pit stop competition. Stay with us for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on NBCSN. Well, last year, Gabby Chavez, and in our pre-race show, said losing this hurts so much. He lost by 6 inches. This time around, he wins by, oh, that's a good 2-3 feet. Last year, .0026, 26 ten-thousandths. This year, the difference, 5 thousandths of a second. Another fantastic finish in Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here is the unofficial final tally of the Freedom 100. Chavez, Brabham, Veach, Razia, and Harvey. The top 5 down to victory lane with Jake Query.
For the second straight year, the Freedom 100 comes down to the last line before the yard of bricks. And Bilardi Autosport wins again, this time in the form of Gabby Chavez. And Gabby, congratulations. I guess after last year you thought, I like those close finishes, but I'm not going to have the same result this time.
Oh, man. Being in the number 5 car this year, which is the one that beat me last year, now I know how he did it. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the team. We had a rough weekend last race here in Indy, and to bounce back with a win in the biggest race of the season, nothing better.
Okay, so you say you know how Dempsey did it a year ago, and you know how Gabby Chavez did it this year. So tell us all, how did both of you do it? Take me through that pass.
Oh, man, I was just in the right moment, in the right position. I tried getting around Zach for second, I think with 2 or 3 laps to go. Tried to position myself to get around Matt in the last lap. And Zach had a good counterattack, so I just said, you know what, I got to go for both of them on the last lap. It's gonna have to happen just on the last lap. And I was able to pull it off. Man, I was sawing at the wheel those last 2 corners because, you know, the outside of this track doesn't have that much grip. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the team. You know, Bilardi Auto Racing, they got me in the car this year, and they deserve this as much as I do.
When you pulled in, I noticed that you kissed your hands and pointed to the sky about 5 different times while you pulled in to celebrate. What did go through your mind realizing you're a winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
Oh, man, it's just, you know, with the rough last weekend, race weekend that we had here, I just realized that I let the results get to me. I let my passion be driven by results and not by the love for the sport and how happy I am when I drive a car. And this weekend I told my engineer, I told the whole team, you know, we got to come in here and most important, we got to have fun. We've got to have fun and work hard, and that's just going to deliver the results. And I'm so happy, you know, I put my faith, you know, in the man upstairs, and I'm happy he came through with me.
Why don't you look upstairs right here? You're at victory lane at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gabby Chavez, the winner of the Freedom 100, the Firestone, or the Indy Lights, excuse me, presented by Cooper Tires.
How cool is that? Victory lane in Indianapolis. Gabby Chavez was born in Columbia. He has spent most of his life in the Florida area in Fort Lauderdale. He is just 20 years old, and there is the photo finish. Gabby Chavez wins for the 3rd time this season. And let's take a look at the championship now, because it is tight, and obviously it could not be any tighter at the top. Chavez and Veach are even. But Chavez has the advantage for the moment with 3 race wins to 2 race wins for Veach. Razia has already won this season. He is still very much in the mix, just 7 back, and Jack Harvey and Matthew Brabham are still lurking. As good as this was, it is unofficially still only the 3rd closest finish in Indy Lights history. Nothing is, I don't think, ever going to top Chicagoland 2007 when Logan Gomez won by Alex Lloyd by 5 10,000ths of a second, and last year obviously 26 10,000ths of a second with Peter Dempsey. Well, fantastic. Indy Lights is off for a little while until July at Pagano for race number 8 of 14. The day is not nearly done here. 30 hours of coverage on NBCSN of motorsports this weekend for the greatest weekend in motorsports, and stay tuned for the pit stop competition. Thank you, Joseph Newgarden, for coming in. Good luck this weekend. Anders Crone as well. For Jake Query and Jan Beekes, I'm Kevin Lee. Bob Varsha and the IndyCar crew coming up again in just a moment as Carb Day continues from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where Carb Day activity continues here, all in preparation, of course, for the 98 Indianapolis 500 coming up on Sunday. We've got a ways to go. Coming up shortly, the battle among 12 pit crews to find out who is the quickest of all in the pit lane at Indianapolis. And don't forget, coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, following our broadcast, a special edition of NASCAR America here on NBC Sports Network. It's a NASCAR America Motorsports Special, 90 minutes, setting up a massive Memorial Day weekend of racing action, including more than 30 hours from around the world here on NBCSN. And with that, we welcome you back to our announced position high above the pit lane here at Indianapolis. I'm Bob Varsha, along with 8-time Indy 500 starter Paul Tracy, and a man starting in this year's Indy 500, of course, Townsend Bell. Townsend, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back at the Indy 500.
Tell me a little bit about how your last hour of practice went this morning.
Well, Carb Day is super important. You know, it's your last chance to get your car tuned up for the race. Luckily, the conditions are really warm today, a lot warmer than they were last week. You know, it's about 110 degrees track temperature. I expect race day to be, you know, about 115, 120. So it's going to be a really good read for us. We've got a great race car in traffic, starting further back than we want to in 25th, but I got a lot of cars to pass. I think I've got something to do with. We're on board here the other day in practice, running in a big freight train, and you can just watch kind of how I'm working the white line there with the left front coming into turn 2 here. You're getting turbulent air off the car in front of you. Now I've got a little run down the back straight. I'm making an adjustment with my tools. That's the anti-roll bar down on the left side. Going to bend it into turn 3 here. And again, can't remember which way the wind was blowing on this particular run, but you'll see it a little bit understeer in 3, so that means the wind's probably blowing south to north there. Coming through 4, nice clean line. Get a little bit of run here on willpower. I'm going to suck up into that draft and wait till the last second, pop out, and cruise on by. That's a pretty good sense of what traffic is like here at Indy and how to make a move on somebody.
Well, the car's obviously good this morning, Townsend. I came over to your pit after practice, and what we were talking about up here is it's got to be confusing for the team with you being so quick this morning and Bourdais struggling so hard. And I asked you, what's the difference? And the guys are saying they just can't drive your setup.
Yeah, you know, we've stayed in a really tight box at KV Racing. They obviously won the race last year with Tony Kanaan. They did the tire test here in the fall. And so I really came into this month with the mentality that, hey, that's a car that's capable of winning the race. It was obviously exceptional in traffic. Let me just start within that little box, go drive, and see if I can drive it in the same manner. And it looks so far like we've got something that is just as good in traffic, and that's what you need, especially when you're starting as far back as I am.
Starting to roll the cars at the moment into position for the pit stop competition. And of course, up behind me, the famed Pagoda. And that is where this week I had a chance to get a closer look at the Verizon floor where they demonstrate their technology.
One of the perks of being the new title sponsor is that Verizon has the opportunity to take over this entire 10th floor of the famed Pagoda to show off their latest technology. One of those technologies is LTE multicast. Think of it as broadcast data. It's not a one-to-one connection. You can broadcast the data in a large stadium environment, and it doesn't cause data backlog. Going live here for the Indy 500, each team has a special app to to where they can see each in-car camera, any of the track feeds, as well as the broadcast itself. Now, in-car cameras are cool, but nothing like being in the actual seat. This demonstrates augmented reality through a technology known as Oculus Rift. I'm getting a virtual ride in the back of a two-seater at Long Beach, including heavy braking and the curbs themselves. 14 different cameras give me the opportunity to look around. I can look in a full 360 degrees. Wow, what a ride. And just for fun, you can choose your Verizon driver and get behind the wheel through spatial recognition. You finish the lap at the speedway, you hear from Tim Cindric on the radio. In this case, Will Power puts you in victory lane, where you can do any kind of victory dance that suits your fancy. Woo!
How cool is that? I could spend a whole day up there on that floor of the Pagoda with the folks from Verizon. Thank you, Jan. Now it's time for the pit stop competition. Here's how it works. It's a single elimination competition. The drivers will compete 2 by 2. And Ryan Hunter-Reay will be a part of our first combination. He'll be going up against Sage Karam. There you see Hunter-Reay's crew. Josh Freund on the outside front, Raleigh Kirby, Nino Venezia, Doug Bradley, David Nesbitt, Rich Meredith. Good luck to them. Across the way, Sage Karam will have his 22 car. Dave Arnold on the left front, Brian Hornick on the right, Cody Selman and Chase Selman on the left and right rears, Airjack Ron Smith, Fueler David Taylor. Now the drivers will perform a simulated pit stop as quickly as possible. Drivers, heck, the crews are going to do that, but the drivers are important because unlike pit stop competitions where the cars may be stationary or when they're pushed into the pit box, the drivers will actually drive these cars in and out, engines running. 4 entrants get a bye to the quarterfinals. Lane choice for the semis and the final will be determined by the fastest performance in the previous round. Synchronous start, they will start together on a green light system. Fastest pit stop followed by the driver driving the car through the finish lights will win. If you have a problem, you can be penalized. And we'll show you the penalties. They include such things as leaving before the green light. That's a big one. Leaving a loose wheel, and so on. We are ready for our first pair, Sage Karam and Ryan Hunter-Reay. Engines are running. Watch for the lights. Jump there by Sage Karam, the 19-year-old who hit the wall in practice. His crew goes to work. Top of your screen, Ryan Hunter-Reay on the preferred left lane on the pit lane where the tire rubber is built up. But it looks like Karam comes through for the victory, 13.026 seconds.
Pretty impressive for a one-off program. That's Dreyer Reinbold Racing with an association with Chip Ganassi. They finished second overall in this competition. I think it was 2 years ago with Oriole Servia. So they've lost none of their speed despite being sitting around all season.
Introduce our next pair of contestants. Here is Indianapolis favorite Bob Jenkins.
Okay, let's get set for the next set of drivers. On the trackside lane for Schmidt Peterson Hamilton Motorsports. The chief mechanic is Don Oldenburg. The outside front tire changer is Brandon Cleve. Inside front Justin Herring. The outside rear Matt Dove. Inside rear Tyler Kyle. And the air jack Keith Black. The fueler is Frank Camacho. And the driver is Simon Pagano, car number 77. On the pit side lane for Chip Ganassi Racing, Charlie Kimball. Mark Sampson is the chief mechanic. Josh Junge, the outside front row tire changer. Steve Nemensack inside front. Brad Wright outside rear. Rick Pearson inside rear. Pat Nelson air jack. And Sam Summers is the fueler.
I'm taking this.
And with that, our starter checks to make sure both cars are running, drivers are ready. I know the pit crews are. And in case you're wondering, these are not the actual race cars these drivers will use on Sunday. These are their backup cars.
Well, the reason they do that, Bob, is because these cars, they've totally set these up for the pit stops. They've stood up the cameras, softened the springs, make sure these things launch straight, make sure they brake straight. Big advantage for Pagano going into the box.
He was the first to drop the clutch, but he slid a little bit long on his marks there, about a foot long of where they wanted him. You can see the T's there, but he gets away early. It looked like Charlie was late on the clutch and then big wheel spin also.
And Kimball was using that pit side lane there on the concrete where all the rubber from the tires of the race cars has been laid down for better grip. Pagano comes through. You see they will check to make sure all the wheels are secure. 2 thumbs up means Simon Pagano has a clean run and takes the victory.
The members now of the teams in the trackside lane. The number 2 car of Juan Pablo Montoya. Members of the team, chief mechanic is Vance Welker. Also Will Schneider, Clay Turner, Trevor Lacasse, Justin Bosch, and Greg Rimmer. And his opponent on the pit side will be Graham Rahal. Donnie Stewart, the chief mechanic. Brian Gosley, Jeff Frederick, Adam Koselar, Mark Mason, and Phil Davis, other members of the team.
And about a minute to go. We'll stick the starters in the back of the cars, fire up the engines. Juan Pablo Montoya will take on Graham Rahal. Let's hear from Graham's dad. You may have heard of him. Devin?
This is a great day to really showcase the teams. Bobby, how much do you enjoy this event?
Oh, it's fun and a fantastic crowd. It's getting bigger every year. I mean, this is for the fans and for the crews. You know, I mean, I think it's awesome. It's a good chance for the crews to go head to head and a lot of fun.
We'll let you watch your guys. They're about ready to go.
1986 Indy 500 winner Bobby Rahal. There's his son Graham, named for Formula One champion Graham Hill. Juan Pablo Montoya, who has raced and won in Formula One, then to NASCAR, and now back in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Engines are running. Final checks. Send them on their way. 2 wins from the supposedly inferior asphalt lane. That's where Montoya will start.
Montoya with the jump.
A little small jump for Montoya.
Although Rahal laid the power down a little bit better. Oh, issue with the right rear on Montoya. Graham?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Still got away.
Graham's got an issue with his right rear. And they are mad. They know that, man, he had a little bit of an edge off the line.
Oh, look at that time. 12.808 seconds. The fastest pass we've seen thus far.
Well, things are going right for Montoya now. This could be his breakout weekend. And Townsend, this is actually pretty good practice for these guys. You don't get a lot of opportunity to practice standing starts on a race weekend, and to get to do this, I think, is an advantage when they go to Detroit in a couple weeks.
Well,
Last race of round number 1 on the trackside lane. The defending champion of the 500, Target Chip Ganassi Racing, Tony Kanaan. Members of the team, Kevin O'Donnell, Wayne Westpate, Troy Scheller, Jamie Coates, Nick Ford, and Robbie Page. And on the pit side lane, Ryan Briscoe. Chief mechanic is Ricky Davis. Other members of the team, Mike Legalick, Eric Wainscott, Kyle Clark, Brandon Zeal, Dave Penna, and Brad Ward.
So we're ready to go. The last round won by Penske Racing, Team Montoya, 12.8 seconds. Last year's fastest time was 12.33, set by Dario Franchitti's team in the semifinals. So Chip Ganassi's boys, as much as they want to look ahead to Sunday, they are well trained for this event.
And I will guarantee you there's been a lot of elbowing within crew guys of who's going to beat who today. This is a team-to-team battle. And the Ganassi team has come on strong here in the last week. They won the All-Star race with Jamie McMurray last week and won 2 in final practice today. So this is good stuff.
And nobody's won from the left lane yet so far today. And I can't say that's because of surface. It just seems like things just haven't gone the right way over on the left side. So let's see if Briscoe could be the first guy.
Couple lights.
Even start.
You bet. A little bit of an advantage for Ryan Briscoe. Couple of revs
Briscoe by
concrete lane.
Yeah, well, that ends the myth of the pavement's better than the concrete.
Well, it really seemed like the concrete was better. Briscoe was the first guy to get a really clean launch and lay the clutch out just right, and it seemed like that concrete actually gripped up really well for him.
Yeah.
First race of the quarterfinals. Here are the combatants. And the trackside lane, car number 14 from AJ Foyt Racing, Takuma Sato, members of the team, Tom Howett, Thomas Simic II, Andrew Copeland, Ryan Hopstuck, Josh Rhodes, Tom Howett, and Pat Jordan. And in the pit side lane, for Dreyer and Reinbold Kingdom Racing, Sage Karam. Chief mechanic is Mark Wyda. Members of the team, Brian Hornick, Dave Arnold, Chase Selman, Cody Selman, Ron Smith, and David Taylor.
So we're ready to go. The engines have fired. You had a good look there at Takuma Sato's special helmet livery, celebrating AJ Foyt's 4 victories here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a driver. Hopes to bring him another as a car owner. It would be AJ's second. Here come the revs. Cars are in gear.
Oh, almost a jump there.
That's a creep from Sato, and he had to gather it back up.
Karam,
big wheel spin.
Karam got away nice and clean.
And Sato well short of his marks as well on the stop.
Wow.
There goes Sage Karam.
Not a great run for either guy, but no. Karam pulled it off at a 14.6. Remember Montoya down in the high 12s earlier.
Well, the idea is to survive and advance.
Yeah, it's just advance, and another impressive showing by Sage. They've advanced, and great way to finish off the day. He looks happy.
Right? He's doing he's the quarterback for the Panthers. What's his name? Or not the Panthers. Who am I thinking about?
Cam Newton. No. I'll help you, T-Bell. For the Panthers, you got it right.
Yeah.
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton, thank you. Yeah, doing the Cam Newton there. Superman.
I don't think Dreyer and Reinbold are a particular underdog in this. They made it to the semifinal last year and went all the way to the final in 2012. So Sage Karam and the boys may have something for this field. Marty Snyder.
Well, I liked Sage getting out of the car there. I liked your Cam Newton impersonation. That was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I love football, and I got the whole Johnny Manziel money thing, now the Cam Newton, you know, so, no, I'm having a good time. This is like the most fun event so far this whole weekend, or the whole month, really, so I'm just enjoying it.
Aren't 17-year-olds supposed to be up in the stands, skipping school, not in the competition?
Yeah, no, I guess so. So I'm so blessed to be here. You know, this is an amazing opportunity for me, and being a senior in high school, I wouldn't want it any other way.
All right, Sage Karam advances to the next round. He's having fun, and good luck for a lot of confidence, doesn't he, guys?
No, he doesn't. He will start on the last row for Sunday's Indianapolis 500, but he is the highest qualified 19-year-old in the field.
I'm afraid we're not going to see that kid until late Sunday morning, the way this party's going out here.
I tell you what,
Bon Jovi going. I've never heard him so animated.
He's the kind of guy that American drivers need to promote. This is what it's been lacking in open wheel racing, is a guy with a colorful guy with a lot of character, young, good looking, and doing a good job today.
As you see in the replay, a little bit of a balky getaway for Takuma Sato. The crew could not pick him up. A little bit short of his marks, which means they have to shuffle on their knees a little bit to get right to that perpendicular to the lug nut so they can hit it with the air hammer.
And Sage pretty lucky there, because there's an issue with the right front air gun on that stop. Not the quickest time, but they were still able to pull it off.
All right, here we go with the race number 2 in the quarterfinals. The trackside lane. From Team Penske, Will Power. Members of the team, Matt Johnson, Robbie Atchison, Carlos Plaza, Sean Reineman, Jeremy Baker, Blaine Hardy, and DJ Chupita. In the pit side lane, Simon Pagano of Schmidt Peterson Hamilton Motorsports. Members of the team, Don Oldenburg, Brendan Cleve, Justin Herring, Matt Dove, Taylor Kyle, Keith Black, and Frank Camacho.
Now there's a look at Will Power, the first of 3 Penske drivers in the next 3 matchups, and 2 of them are going to be facing drivers from Chip Ganassi racing teams.
In the battle of the 2 guys that won't go on vacation with each other. I don't know if I'd go on vacation with them. They probably go to bed at 8 o'clock at night because they have to train in the morning.
Pretty even start there. Pagano with a slight advantage. They both hit their marks perfectly.
first car to drop.
Ooh, and a 12.6. I think that's the quickest we've seen so far.
Very quick for power.
Yes, it is.
Pretty cool assignment, Pagano. If you notice, he's got that throwback Ayrton Senna helmet. Big Ayrton Senna fan. It's nice to see that out here.
You can see how serious the captain is about this. This is, like I said earlier, he lives for this.
But you see Castroneves walk up to him. Of course, Helio is always smiling. And he takes one look at Roger, and suddenly the smile disappears because it's got to be all business right now. To Bob Jenkins.
Okay, here we go with the next to the last race in the quarterfinals. In the trackside lane from Target Chip Ganassi, Scott Dixon. Team members Blair Julian, Adamoy Vicini, Greg Suker, Tyler Reese, Andy Schneider, and Todd Denevi. And his opponent in the pit lane, Juan Pablo Montoya from Team Penske. Team members Vance Welker, Will Schneider, Clay Turner, Trevor Lacasse, Justin Bosch, and Greg Rimmer.
There are so many smartphone cameras, like the one just above Chip Ganassi's head, focusing on this pair, Dixon versus Montoya.
The two power brokers standing next to each other, arguably the two fastest guys in IndyCar right now. Great launch by Montoya.
And that's that left lane advantage on the concrete we were talking about. Really clean tires on here for both teams.
Oh, wow. Look at the stop by the Ganassi boys. Problems for Montoya. Dixon comes through to take the win. Chip is smiling. Roger's not.
Tough to tell what happened there with Montoya's stop. He was quicker off the line, solid into the box. They must have had a problem on one of the four corners.
He had a big advantage leaving Montoya, and then it all went wrong in the pit box. But you could see the disappointment on Roger's face, a big frown.
All right, here's the final round of the quarterfinals. In the trackside lane, Helio Castroneves with team members Travis Law, Joel Svensson, Doug Snyder, Kenny Watson, Gary Yingst, and Patrick Stewart. And his opponent in the pit side lane, he beat Tony Kanaan in the first round, Ryan Briscoe with members Ricky Davis, Mike Legalick, Eric Wainscott, Kyle Clark, Brandon Zeal, Dave Penna, and Brad Ward.
All right, thank you, Bob. Quickly.
And I think you have just as much a chance making a mistake with your clutch release versus the grip advantage one side to the next. Here we go. Dead heat.
Oh, boy. Slight advantage into the box for Briscoe.
Briscoe had a little lockup on the way in.
Problem for the Pennzoil car on the outside front.
Slow for Briscoe, too.
Oh, yeah. That wheel is not on there.
Well, that will be a penalty, but perhaps penalty enough is the fact that Ryan Briscoe will go no further. Helio Castroneves picks up the win, but just 14.349 seconds.
Yeah, it looked like there was a little problem on the right front for Castro, or right rear for Castroneves. It looked like the guy struggled a little bit, but big problem for the right rear for Briscoe. The wheel fell off.
You know, it's
Here we go with race number one in the semifinals. In the trackside lane from Dreyer and Reinbold Kingdom Racing, Sage Karam. Members of the team, Mark Weida, Brian Hornick, Dave Arnold, Chase Selman, Cody Selman, Ron Smith, and David Taylor. And his opponent in the pit side lane, Verizon Team Penske's Will Power. Members of the team, Matt Janssen, Robbie Atchison, Carlos Plaza, Sean Reineman, Jeremy Baker, Blaine Hardy, and DJ Chupita.
I like that DJ Chupita.
Here we go. The revs come up. We are ready. Karam on the right versus Power. Oh, Power gets a good launch. A lot of wheel spin from the yellow car. It's going to take a great stop. Oh, look at Dreyer Reinbold. Wow.
Disaster for Power.
Unbelievable.
Cow.
I mean, he had a full second earlier in the box just by virtue
and the
of
little
nailing the
DNR
launch.
team beat the big team of Roger Penske. That is incredible.
Now, let's see what he does this time.
Yeah, he's got to work on his touchdown dance.
He's got to see if he's got something new here.
There you go, rodeo style.
Wow, third year in a row that Little Dryer and Reinbold has made it to the semifinals. For the second time, they are going to the final. If all four wheels are attached, and it looks like they are.
Well, Sage, I think you're going to run out of touchdown dances, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm starting to get to the end of my moves, but my signature has always been SK Money, so...
It's SK Money.
I've always been called SK Money throughout the ranks and stuff, so, you know, if I win this one, I think I'm going to save the money for last, so we'll see.
There you go. That's the move we wanted to see. So tell me about that. Will got such a great launch. Do you think we're in trouble here?
Well, the left side is so much faster than the right. There's so much more grip laid down just from the whole month of everybody peeling out over there. So I knew we were kind of in trouble coming in, but my crew did an awesome job, and we never gave up, and we took the fight to them and ended up on top.
How are you guys doing? Everybody else is set up for this. You guys are set up for the race.
Yeah, no, we're set up for the race, and remember, we had a little accident this morning, so they were hustling to get the thing back together, and to come out here and be in the finals for my first pit stop challenge, I'm so pumped up.
SK Money, 19 years old, he's in the finals, Kevin.
Brian. Let's find out who takes on Sage Karam in the finals in this round. In the trackside lane, Elio Castroneves from Team Penske, with crew members Travis Law, Joel Svensson, Doug Snyder, Kenny Watson, Gary Hinkst, and Patrick Stewart. And his opponent in the pit side lane, from Target Chip Ganassi Racing, it's Scott Dixon with members Blair Julian, Adam Roybacini, Greg Schuker, Tyler Reese, Andy Schneider, and Todd Denevi.
Here come the revs. Here come the lights.
Pretty even getaway for both. Dead even.
Crews fall into their jobs. See who drops to the ground first. Well, look like Dixon.
And a good time here. He's going to nail it. Look at that.
12-2. Wow. 12-2. That's the quickest we've seen. And that is under the fastest time of last year. 12.330 by Dario Franchini's crew, working for that guy, Chip Ganassi. Bob Jenkins.
Here we go with the finals. The combatants in the trackside lane. 19-year-old Sage Karam with his crew, Mark Wida, Brian Hornick, Dave Arnold, Chase Selman, Cody Selman, Ron Smith, and David Taylor. And in the pit side lane, Target Chip Ganassi Racing, Scott Dixon with members Blair Julian, Adam Roybacini, Greg Schuker, Tyler Reese, Andy Schneider, and Todd Denevi. It's showdown time.
$50,000 to win, $15,000 for second place, and all the bragging rights you care to own. Here come the lights. Oh, pretty good getaway over there in the pit lane.
And this is a David versus Goliath competition here. Dixon got away very clean, but it's close.
And that's a left lane, right lane difference. Look at the time, 11.7. 11. That's half a second quicker, Bob.
Almost a full second quicker than last year's best time.
And how about Sage Karam with a 12-0 from the right lane? So they've got nothing to be ashamed of. That's an awesome run.
Not a bit. It looked like both cars were dropped off the jacks at just about the same time.
And Dixon got to the box way before Sage Karam did.
11.7, Scott. That's an impressive time.
Yeah, the 9-car guys have been amazing all year. You know, I think we've been quickest on pit road for 3 out of 4 races so far this season, and that's why they qualified for this, and that's why we've been doing so well in these pit stop competition. But I got to thank them, man. It was, you know, I was still a little cautious and just wanted to put it in the right spot for them, but huge credit to Team Target.
That Sage Karam kid's going to be good, though, isn't he?
That was awesome. I was so happy to see him in the final, too, and it's always nice that they knocked out a few Penske cars.
It's a preview for Sunday, by the way, as Emma comes in. Mike Hull, the team manager. Preview for Sunday today?
I hope so. Indy's pit stop, you know, where you can make some spots up.
Emma, you can come in. You'll make the picture much better.
You know, it definitely makes your job a lot easier on track, and I know that come Sunday, these guys are going to be on it, and they're going to help me in the pits. And I just hope that, this is a kickoff to the weekend that we need.
Good job, but congratulations to your guys.
Thanks, man. I want to thank everybody for coming out, too. The crowd here is amazing today.
They are amazing. A lot of fun being had. Scott Dixon, your 2014 Pit Stop Competition winner, Bob. Well, SK Money, as he calls himself, you didn't make it rain, but you definitely made an impression today.
No, it was fun. I had such a fun time. I didn't know if we were going to be in the finals or not, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I hope the fans had a fun time. I was having a good time with it. Every time I got out of the car, I was putting on a little show for you guys. But no, I was having fun. And to lose to Scott, he's a pretty good guy. So I'm not too worried about that. And we're also in partnership with Ganassi, so to get Chip 2 guys in the finals there was a great accomplishment. I think we were just on the side that lacked a little grip. And
handshake from Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, handshake from the boss, so that's always a good sign.
When you were pulling out of your box, you were kind of looking to the left. Did you think you had Scott?
Yeah, well, I came in and I knew he got away better than we did. He was just on the and I actually feel like I took him into the box a little harder, and looks like we actually got to the box at the similar times, and I felt like we got dropped earlier, but just when I let go of the clutch to get going again, it just wheel spin, and there's just no grip on this side, and he just, took off it. Hey, what are you going to do? It was still a lot of fun.
Let's talk about Sunday, the experience of a 19-year-old doing this. You had the incident this morning. What do you feel like your realistic chances are on Sunday?
Oh, well, we had a little incident, but, that's not changing anything in my mindset, or it's not changing anything on how the team thinks, and we're going to go in there at the same setup we always have. Objective is to get to the front. If I didn't think I could win this thing, I wouldn't be doing it. So, that's the gig we signed up for, and I'm going to give it my all. It's just first of all, we just got to complete all 500 miles, and hopefully we're there to make some magic happen.
What would be a finish that would make you happy Sunday?
I would like a top 15, top 10, but I feel like if I can just put myself there after the last pit stop, who knows what happens at this place.
All right, thanks. You made it a lot of fun today.
Thank you. I had fun.
All right, Sage, Karam, having a lot of fun here, Jan.
We want to thank you all for joining us for our 5 hours of live NBC Sports Network coverage from Carb Day, including a spectacular Indy Lights race won by Gavi Chavez. Stay with us. We'll have more from Indianapolis Motor Speedway when we join NASCAR America Motorsport Special coming up next. Be sure to watch the Indy 500 Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern over on ABC. The Verizon IndyCar Series continues on CNBC with the Firestone 600 from Texas Motor Speedway. That'll be coming your way again on CNBC Saturday, June 7th at 8 o'clock Eastern. For more information on the Verizon IndyCar Series, you can always log on to NBCSports.com. I'm Bob Varsha. It's been a great day for my colleagues Paul Tracy, Townsend Bell, Robin Miller, Marty Snyder, Jan Beekes, and Kevin Lee. Thanks for joining us. Now let's send it to Rick Allen at our NASCAR America studios. So long, everyone.